Alrighty, welcome to the final panel of this wonderful symposium. My name is Joseph Sorensen. I'm a professor of Japanese here at UC Davis, and it's my pleasure to introduce the speakers for this last panel. I want to thank all of you for sticking it out to the very end of the end, but I think you will be rewarded. So our first speaker today, this afternoon for this panel, is Mr. Kunikazu Mochitani, and his CV does not at all read like a how-to guide to becoming a tea farmer. Mr. Mochitani was born in Osaka, went to international school in Kobe, went to high school in Spokane, Washington. And then after working in carpentry and construction, he worked for Mitsubishi Heavy Industries. And then after doing a stint with the nightclub and music industry, worked with a Sony engineer to design a speaker system. And then is now doing what he's doing today. So please join me in welcoming Mr. Kunikazu Mochitani.
Hello. He have told the unique career of mine just now. I have spent my life with different kind of things. So now I'm related with the tea, and then thank you very much for the invitation to be a guest speaker at the third GTI Symposium. I am very honored to be here, and I hope my speech will give you some insight into the tea cultivation situation in Japan and how my company is trying to sustain and preserve this through matcha tea and clean energy. So my speech title for today is The Power of Matcha. I started my company, Leaf, in 2013. 2013 was a huge turning point for the Japanese energy market. As I am sure that everyone here knows, Japan had a devastating earthquake on 11th March 2011. And had a huge tsunami hits the east coast of the north region of Japan. This disaster had over 20,000 casualties and nearly 500,000 evacuees. This tsunami also hits the Fukushima nuclear power site and destroyed all the total electro devices on site, creating fear and panic about nuclear radiation leakage. I was a resident in Tokyo at the time of this unforgettable and terrifying incident. Nobody really knew what was going on, and we did not know what was real news or not. But I have to say, this was kind of like an eye-opener for us. It made us realize that a nuclear power station is just a boiler system to turn the steam turbines to generate energy. It got me really thinking. So from here, I started to do my research about alternative power sources, and I found solar power as a safe and promising option. And this brought me an idea of the use of the agricultural land. I already knew of the issue of agricultural land in Japan, as it is a big news of social problem. We are an aging generation, and no one in Japan that's interested in taking over the farming businesses. So, according to the Ministry of Agriculture in Japan, 25% of the farmland has been abandoned or converted to something else over the last 50 years. You can see droppings. By chance, a good friend of mine introduced me to a tea producer he knew based in Shizuoka, a prefecture close to Tokyo. I visited the abundant tea land plantation, and from here my journey started with tea and brought me here to share with you today. So the theme today is the future of tea and the issue in sustainability and preservation. So to guide you to this topic, I need to explain a little thing about Japanese tea, which are the Japanese tea market today, the history about Japanese tea, the difference between matcha tea and sencha tea, and how my business relates to sustainability and preservation approach to the tea agriculture. Shizuoka is the #1 tea growing district of Japan and houses 40% of Japanese tea plantation. Shizuoka is there. 99% of Shizuoka farmers produce sencha, which is loose leaf tea. This tea producer is the fourth generation of his family to continue producing tea and was struggling. I say was because due to some innovative techniques that I will introduce you to in a minute, he now runs his tea business alongside a second business with allowing him double or triple incomes. So as you can see, this graph here, the tea consumption, particularly sencha leaf tea consumption, in Japan is falling year on year. This is due to the introduction of new drinks. Coffee, of course, is the one, and bottled tea, which you can buy easily, hot or cold. In addition, demand for cheaper goods has led to a decrease in the price of tea. So which one is a laser here? Oh, yeah. So you see this dark green. This is the loose leaf tea. Bright green is the bottled tea. So it's taking a place over. So expenses for the farmers stays the same. So you can be certain that their income and therefore profit have fallen drastically by some 80%. This unfortunate downward slope for tea farmer has been going on since the 1980s. And most tea farmers are ending tea farming with their generation and encouraging their son and daughter to enter normal employees. So the abundant tea plantation in past years shows like this. Shizuoka is conventionally the major sencha production area. Over 99% of Shizuoka tea farmers are making sencha tea. So the damage of this district was pretty serious. However, on the flip side, the matcha tea business growing mainly in the Kyoto-Uji area is doing well. Matcha has always been considered as a high-end tea product, and these days it is the use as a special exotic addition to many kinds of the dessert, leading to increase its demands. So this is a story I just picked up few from the centuries. Japanese tea history started from 1,200 years ago. Tea was brought from China over that time and had spent a long time to evaluate as a green tea you can find today. It creates style of tea production in each district, also creates some variety of tea, such as matcha tea and sencha tea. Matcha tea and sencha tea in Japan have rich history, although they are both green tea. They are very different in how they are grown, processed, and appreciated. If you ask any Japanese people to give an image of the drinking sencha and matcha tea, situation, then the image will be like this. Comparing the picture, you can see matcha is a luxury compared to sencha tea. Matcha was a drink enjoying exclusively by Bushi society, while sencha is a tea that was developed during the Edo period that made tea more accessible and daily drink. It brought Shizuoka tea market bigger and industrialized, but also made Shizuoka matcha obsolete. Matcha remained as luxury product, and the production stayed in Kyoto. So, in the twist of events, matcha appreciation has been expanding across the world. It is not only as a drink now, but it became a flavor additive and a cooking ingredients. Kyoto Uji only has a small plantation space, so they did not have enough leaf for worldwide demand. So this was a good chance for Shizuoka's tea producers that are struggling to find a profit in sencha production to diversify into matcha productions. But making matcha tea in Shizuoka was not easy. I will show the difference between matcha and the sencha plantations. The left side is the Kyoto Uji matcha plantation, and the right side is a Shizuoka sencha plantation. The matcha plantation was designed 400 years ago, originally made in Kyoto, called Oishita Saibai. Oishita is the shelf with the shading. This kind of shading system is common in Kyoto. With this system, Kyoto Uji tea could easily convert to produce either sencha, matcha, and gyokuro from the same plantation. So Kyoto tea producer can adjust their plantation to meet the demands of the market. This was why Kyoto Uji tea business is diversified and healthy. When tea has photosynthesis, theanine has used and create the tannin. Theanine is the umami, and the tannin is a bitter kind of the taste. So the matcha tea plantation needed this shading system because the matcha is actually drinking the grinded leaf. That's taking bitterness out is a pretty necessary thing. The producer I met in Shizuoka needed this shading system, but he told me the investment of this structure was quite expensive. So this is where my interest in the renewable energy and sustainable agriculture came together. What if, agriculture harvests the electricity and provide it to the city? Please imagine if the world has a clean power produced by the primary food industry, I think this small change to the economic system can be a cure for the world. So if taking out the sunlight, why not use solar panel to generate power? So shading of the tea plantation is the major difference of the matcha and the sencha process. Farmers are responsible for installing and managing these shading systems, which are high-cost investments. So the idea of harvesting electricity on top of the plantation can actually work to bring back the investment of this shelf back for the farmers. So I went to the deeper research about matcha tea. This is the process of the chart explains about the farming process of the powdered tea you can see today. Basically, these 4 steps will change the quality mostly. The environmental condition, farmer skill, and type of the cultivar affects the quality of the product also. But majorly, this 4 steps, which way to follow, it will change the quality. First step is the pesticide use. Worldwide pesticide standard is different. So, and Japanese standard does not match to the foreign countries. So if farmers want to make the exportable product, they need to be aware of each country's residue limits. Second is the shading process. For the authentic quality matcha, which are still the best quality, shading by shelf structure is necessary. So the very left side is the shading. So farmer can enter into the shade. Third method is a drying method. For the authentic quality matcha, which are still the best quality, tencharo to dry is also a must. Fourth is the milling stage. It's matcha have like a special made stone mill called chaosu, which you can find. You can see here. This is chaosu. It's handy one. It's not the industrialized one. It's like old time one. Yeah. This only grinds a material called sencha, which is like this. This is only a material for matcha making. And grinder, like chaosu, is the best quality appears. So after my research, I designed a shading shelf structure with solar panel arrays. Comparing the price of sencha and matcha in the aracha stage in the market today, matcha sales price is more than double from sencha prices. So shading shelf structure was a tool for Shizuoka tea farmers to bring back a healthy income. This is how my company made relation with tea and made the relationship with the issue of sustainability and the preservation. I made a project called No Ene Matcha Project. No in kanji character is meaning agriculture, and ene is the word energy combining together, and then made a special word for this project. So the project outline is like this. Bring back the matcha production to Shizuoka, and create the shade shelf structure with the photovoltaic system. Bring more income to farmers. Leading a pesticide-free product, and bring the ecological value to the product. And support exporting the product. And first action was to design and build the matcha plantation like this. You can see the picture on top with the solar panels on top of the tea plantation. Underneath is a shade cloth underneath these solar panels. So this was the very first matcha solar sharing plantation I produced as a demonstration site. It was built in the year of 2013. Size of the plantation was around 800 square meter. It has 176 pieces of 240 watts solar panels, makes 43.12 kilowatts DC. For inverters, 8 pieces of the 5.5 kilowatts volts made 44 kilowatts AC outlet. Panels covers up the sky around 40 to 50% on the plantation. This tea was always replanted for the matcha kind. It's the okumidori kind. In the 2009, so the plant was like 4-year-old at that time, and then now it's 80 years old. Last year harvest was around 200 kilogram for the first shoot. Power production per year is around 56,000 kilowatt hour. It's around the 10 home use of the 4 members family. It has 36 yen electricity sales. It's called a feed-in tariff contract with a utility company, and have the promise of buying everything, every production in 20 years from the contracted day. Sorry. The investment return for this is like 7 years to collect back everything initially expended. And then the yearly IRR for this is around 14.43% year. Reduction of the CO2 from the tea tree and the clean power production makes like 25 ton a year base, which are 17.64 ton from the clean power production, and then 7.36 ton from the tea tree observation. From the first demonstration site, I've been researching the harvest numbers and then the couple things. There was a, you can see like in the middle, that's the direct shade covering on top of the tree, and then the shade covering. So I am comparing these difference with under the solar panels. So appearance, the harvest result was good. It did not change the amount of the new shoots, and it did not change the weight of the shoots. But quality appeared very, very different. This side, this one, is the under the solar panel with a space in between that farmer can enter. This is direct shaded. You can see like the outer of the leaves got damaged because it's rubbing by the wind with this cloth, and you know the shoots for the matchas, they will not take like this as like a not like a baby leaf, like a sencha. They will grow till the last bud to open. So the shoot will be like this long. So if you have like a cloth covering on top, it's gonna damage. So at first the bank was not easy to the farmer and some new kind of the business like me, and they did not like the venture like me. So I had to make the business scheme to involve the energy investor to collaborate in this kind of the business. So the trend of matcha and power, renewable power was just a starting point, and I found much potential in both fields. But farmer to invest these systems to all the plantation was impossible because of the limited credit. Same time, the photovoltaic investor were searching the cheap land and higher returns. My business scheme was to collaborate these two, so all the members can get the total winning. But there were some risks for the investors for the law related to this kind of the agricultural land. Agricultural lands are strictly protected by the law. Usage is only for the agriculture. So solar business with farming was in a gray zone. So Ministry of the Agriculture has made a rule of this kind of the usage of the agriculture, officially announced in the March 13th, 2013. So it became legal to do it, but still the investors' risk remained. They made a rule that only this will be allowed with permit issue every 3 years, validating that the farming continue and then the harvest number has to remain in 80%. This is risky for the and difficult decision for the investor, but few investors has taken a risk, and then we have now over 6 hectares of the plantation it has joining this program. What I have learned from this was action of change needs a patience and it takes time. Today I heard the Ministry of the Environment and then the Ministry of Agriculture collaborating together that create the subsidy for this kind of the models. I think this kind of the action change is it's a big thing from what I have been through. I found a lot good result. You see the top picture there? It's a frost is around, but underneath the panel doesn't have the frost. It's protecting the frost. That's the temperature inside is different than the outside. Underneath is a summer drought. Some of the farmers are saying it helps. Some of the right amount of the shading could help the moisture keeping in the soil. Some others are there, but it's like hitting a 2 stone, the 1 stone by the bird, but it has several things, like good reasons. So this is like the latest one I am doing. There's a promising option for the future. I am improving this system working with the Italian company who believe the same kind of the idea. They had advanced technology, so we got corroborated. I'm licensing now. They have like a tracking system on top of the plantation or any kind of the plantation. It tracks the sun, and then it brings the this tracking needs a computer, and then there also sensors, and then the internet. So more power production, of course, but you can do like thinking of the agriculture 4.0. It's more taking like environmental data, collecting in the computer, and then farmers' skill to archive it in the computer. So farm thing will be more automations, and then the quality appearance would be coming different. So that's the next target of what I'm going to work on. So I've been doing this project from the scratch, and I have been fascinated with matcha tea. Then I found a little unique thing through this tea. A few years ago, I made a mission to myself that when I travel to somewhere I don't know, like Davis here today, where I bring the matcha tea set with me and then try to serve the people I meet for omotenashi. Omotenashi is Japanese cultural world that is a spirit of service and sharing. By doing this, I found the true attraction of tea is the connecting power of the human relation. So thinking of how to treat the better tea as omotenashi has such a beautiful mind. So I was doing this for helping the farmers, but so if we enjoy more teas and more tea lovers appears, then this will be the most powerful reason for the tea to be continued. Thank you very much. Please enjoy more teas.